Hello, from the studio in Nitro, West Virginia. This is Unreasonable Doubt. It's a podcast about West Virginia University basketball. I'm Josh Witt, and typically I spend time on Selection Sunday going through the bracket. And I have to be candid with you, I haven't done that at all. I have not printed out a bracket. I have not consumed anything about matchups and who's the 5-12 upsets, and I haven't done any of that. This is not bracket talk. But we'll start with bracket talk on the women's side. Congratulations to the West Virginia women's basketball team. They get a 6th seed, and they will play the winner of the play-in game between Columbia and Washington. So there's a chance, if Columbia wins that game, that West Virginia will play Ivy schools in their first round back-to-back years. If West Virginia wins against Columbia or Washington, they'll most likely play 3-seed North Carolina in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Winner of that most likely plays Duke. Winner of that most likely plays 1-seed South Carolina to get to the Final Four. That's a gauntlet, but I think JJ and company are excited. Last run for Quinterly, had a very strong end to the season. That first round game will be sometime Saturday. It will be fun to see West Virginia in the women's NCAA tournament. Now let's talk about the men's side. And now let's get back to not bracket talk. What are the painful memories you have for WVU basketball? I've just listed a few, just off the top of my head, and I put these in chronological order. There is recency bias here. I'm sure I could go back to the Atlantic 10 days and think about things that bothered me as an 8-year-old listening to West Virginia play St. Bonaventure on the radio. For sure that wasn't on TV. But this is limited to the 21st century. The last 25 minutes of the 2005 Elite Eight game versus Louisville. The last 5 minutes of the not even the last 5 minutes, the last 5 seconds of the 2006 Sweet 16 game versus Texas. The last 6 minutes of the 2008 Sweet 16 game versus Xavier. Deshaun tearing his ACL in the 2010 Final Four. The entire 40 minutes, this isn't a moment, the entire 40 minutes of the 2016 first round NCAA tournament game between West Virginia and Stephen F. Austin. The last 2 minutes of the 2017 Sweet 16 game versus Gonzaga. In 2020, after being in the Coliseum as loud as I've ever heard it, maybe it's been louder, a couple of days later, they canceled the NCAA tournament because pandemic. Oscar Tshiebwe leaving the team for personal reasons 10 games into the 2020-2021 season. And then really you can pick a moment, an event for WVU basketball between the months of May 2023 and early March of last year. That so many things you could pick in that time frame. So everything before that is kind of confined to a day. You could pick a day in those 10 months and it could be close, maybe not on the level of the ones I mentioned before that, but the accumulation of whatever you could come up with in those 10 months, add that to the list. That list is filled with terrible moments. Most on the court, some off the court. Cut to today. Did WVU finish the season strong? No. They lost to Colorado. in Oklahoma City. Colorado had a losing record. No one would say that's a good loss. Did Colorado beat the two-time defending champion UConn Huskies? Yes. Still not a good loss. Bad loss. Everybody agrees. It doesn't, we'll get to the part where just because everybody agrees, that doesn't mean it's so. But we would all agree that that was a bad loss. Bad way to finish the season. Bad thing to put on the resume that you turn in. Hey, at the end, we lost to Colorado, the 16 seed out of, and that's as big as number as you could have beside your name. Bad. Did West Virginia have other bad losses? The only one I can point to is the Arizona State loss at home. That was a bad loss in hindsight. I think Arizona State is good, but that was a bad loss, a home loss. And then outside of that, so 2 bad losses. Okay. I'm not an expert on predicting who's going to be in the field for the NCAA tournament. There are people, and I'm going to use the word expert. There's plenty of people that try to project who's going to be in the NCAA tournament. And there's a website called Bracket Matrix, mentioned it many times on this podcast. And I referenced that versus a guy at ESPN or a guy at CBS who are fine at it. They're not bad at it, but they are not the best. And who can be the best at predicting? But what you can do, and what the Bracket Matrix tries to do, is accumulate a bunch of these people that are trying to project who's going to be in the NCAA tournament, put all that together, and that can be, it's more data, more people predicting, and that should give you a better result. And the Bracket Matrix has outperformed individual people that are projecting who's going to be in the NCAA tournament over the long term. There were 111 people who made their final prediction in the Bracket Matrix. Not 8, not just Joe Lenardi or Jerry Palm. 111 different people put their predictions in the Bracket Matrix. None of them had the Mountaineers out of the NCAA tournament. Fact. It wasn't 110 out of 111. It wasn't 98 out of 111. All 111 people. Now, how many of those people are in the NCAA selection tournament selection committee? 0. 0 out of 111. So thus what I'm saying is faulty information, because you could have 2,000 people predicting it. None of them are in the committee that decides. Do I want to throw out the Bracket Matrix as a tool to try to figure out, leading up to the NCAA tournament, who's going to be in it? I don't. In this moment, it feels like a something I'd like to do, but I'm not going to do it. So 111 out of 111, by my math, let me punch it in. 111 divided by 111 times, that's 100%. Say West Virginia's in. I didn't feel like I was going out on a limb when West Virginia got their 19th win against UCF in saying that West Virginia was in the NCAA tournament. Will I, if I talk into a microphone again where West Virginia is on the bubble, will I ever say before the selection Sunday that West Virginia is guaranteed to be in the NCAA tournament? It can change, but as I'm talking into this microphone right now, I would never do that again. They could be 29-2. Not going to say it because of what happened today. I mean, in the Smoking Musket Discord, when West Virginia lost to Colorado, my reaction to that was, Dayton, here we come. They put Dayton into play. And that wasn't universally received as like being a thing. Everybody's got a different opinion, but I'm typically glass half empty on that kind of thing. And I thought, all right, that's earned them a trip to Dayton. Last four in, play on a Tuesday or Wednesday. It's not a play-in game, but it absolutely is a play-in game. But you still make the NCAA tournament. How could they go to Dayton? They're currently in the bracket matrix predicted as a 9 seed, which isn't close to being out. I can't explain that. Well, I can't explain any of this. But they did lose to Colorado. And they did lose it to Arizona State at home. But West Virginia, without Tucker DeVries, they played 20 conference games. They won 10 of them without Tucker DeVries in what Ken Pomeroy's computer says is the third best conference this season. They won half of them, including a win at Kansas without Tucker DeVries and a win versus Iowa State without Tucker DeVries. All of the games that they won without Tucker DeVries. 10-10 in the Big 12. Fellow bubble team Cincinnati beat them twice. Colorado, who they lost to on a neutral floor, they beat on the road. They beat Kansas they beat Arizona on a neutral floor. They did that with Tucker DeVries. They also beat Gonzaga with Tucker DeVries. That's the record. You don't get to count those wins. I'm not going to bring up any quads. Quad 1, quad 2, a quad 3 loss. That means nothing to me now. Quad 1, doesn't make any difference. So all that talk and me putting on the internet, hey, here's what their net ranking is, blah, blah, blah. They got 6 quad 1 wins. It doesn't matter. They could have 35 quad 1 wins and a quad 8 loss. Quads don't mean anything to me in this moment. West Virginia was 10-10 in the third best conference, according to Ken Pomeroy's computer. I enjoy betting college basketball. Championship week's coming up, March Madness is coming up. But let's be real, sometimes you need a little more action once the game ends. That's where MyBookie's live casino comes in. It's a live casino, but you're not at the casino, it's on your computer. You got baccarat, roulette, blackjack, real dealers, real cards, and it's all happening live. And here's the best part. MyBookie makes it super easy to jump in. You can go in with a few bucks responsibly, hit the slots, have fun. Plus, if you use the promo code MUSKET when you sign up, they'll hook you up with a 150% casino deposit bonus. That's more than double to play with, and you take that bonus all the way up to $750. So if you're looking for a change of pace, check out the casino, have fun, bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie. The best conference in Ken Pomeroy's computer is the Southeastern Conference. It means more there, the SEC. They have 16 teams, just like the Big 12. Don't want to get into why the Big 12 has 16 teams? It's just what it is. There were only 2 teams that finished with losing records in the Southeastern Conference, LSU and South Carolina. Surprisingly, those 2 teams did not make the NCAA tournament. Their resume, and they didn't go 0-18, but in the SEC, but they did finish the season losing more games than they won. And the committee decided that LSU and South Carolina were not tournament worthy. However, the other 14 teams, all good, put them in. 2 of those 12, our old Big 12 buddies, Oklahoma and Texas, were 6-12 in their conference. West Virginia 10-10, Texas and Oklahoma 6. They won half of the games that they lost in conference. Great conference. And West Virginia is familiar with having a losing conference record and making the NCAA tournament. West Virginia got to the 2023 tournament as a 9 seed, going 7-11 in the best conference that year in Ken Pomeroy's computer. So 7-11 can't say anything about a team going 7-11 and making the tournament. 6-12 I can. And 2 teams that were 6-12 made it. And a 10-10 West Virginia team in the third best conference didn't make it. It's got to be the first time in NCAA tournament history that at-large bids were given to teams with that low of a winning percentage in their own conference. It's got to be. I'm not looking it up. And so then you look at North Carolina, who is in the 5th best conference, according to Ken Pomeroy's computer. And North Carolina won way more than 6 games in the ACC schedule. They won 13 wins in the regular season, and they had 2 wins in the ACC tournament. Where was that tournament held? Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, not too shabby. 13 wins. 0 of those wins were against teams that made the NCAA tournament. 0. How many wins did they have against a team that made the NCAA tournament? 1. UCLA in a non-conference game on a neutral court. And North Carolina, West Virginia has 5 wins against NCAA tournament teams. 5-1. Some of those wins was without Tucker DeVries. And North Carolina makes the NCAA tournament. And WVU, which I said into this microphone, is gonna fall off the bubble. They had bubble residue on them, but they were going to land in the NCAA tournament. Dead wrong. They're free falling, baby. It's Tom Petty time. Free falling. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about first teamer, all Big 12 Javon Small and the season that he had. And what is he going to make of his opportunity? His one and only opportunity in the NCAA tournament. And a lot of first timers. I'm not talking about any of that. And it diminishes all 32 games that West Virginia played before what happened tonight, where West Virginia was deemed the first team out. And when you see that they're the first team out, the last thing you put on the resume is the Colorado loss. Let's say West Virginia wins that game by 2, or just they get more points than Colorado and they get blown out by Houston for the 3rd time. Are they in the NCAA tournament? I don't think so. That can't be the turning point from in to out. No way. And I gave you that list of bad moments. The thing about this bad moment is that it affects something that I enjoy every year. I love printing out a bracket. I love doing research on the teams, filling out my bracket, ESPN Tournament Challenge, doing all that. And I may get there in the next 4 days, but I ain't touching one tonight. And I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. Yes, the tournament committee chairman is the athletic director of North Carolina. Factual. Does that Does that have a direct correlation to West Virginia not being in the NCAA tournament? It does not. Does the Raekwon Battle case last season and suing the NCAA have anything to do with any retaliation? That's pure speculation. That is not based in factual evidence. That would be a conspiracy theory. And I don't really deal in the conspiracy theory world. What I will tell you is that a 10-10 Big 12 team with wins over 5 teams that made the NCAA tournament did not make the NCAA tournament. And we're not going to stop there. We could add to the bad feeling list in like real fast, because Iowa fired their head coach, Fran McCaffrey. Mike Woodson will not be Indiana's head coach next season. Indiana had a similar resume to West Virginia, did not make the NCAA tournament. And current West Virginia head coach Darien DeVries is being reported to be a possible candidate for both the Iowa job and the Indiana job. And West Virginia has, I think I've already mentioned this, not in the NCAA tournament. Indiana not in the NCAA tournament. Iowa not in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, there's the new sad tournament that's in Las Vegas that the Big 12 is contractually obligated to bring 2 teams. That's going to happen tomorrow. West Virginia's not in the NIT field. They're not in the CBI field, to my awareness, but they could go to Vegas and play in something, a sad tournament. But none of those teams are in the NCAA tournament. So within the next couple of days, we could find out that Darien DeVries, who stayed as an assistant coach with Creighton for 17 seasons, got his first head coaching job, stayed there for 6 seasons. That's 23 seasons, 2 jobs, could get to Morgantown in March of last year and say, I can't pass up this offer, and leave West Virginia. Not after 6 seasons, not after 17 seasons, after 1 season. Unreasonable Doubt is under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Go to smokingmusket.com. Read posts about WVU Sports, Daily Throwdown. Check that out. Go to the Discord. We're talking about WVU Sports and other stuff on the Smoking Musket Discord. Link for that is in the show notes. Listen to West by Pod, the WVU football podcast under the Smoking Musket umbrella. Do all that stuff. Smoking Musket. So to recap, where we're at, every expert who does NCAA tournament projections had West Virginia in the NCAA tournament. And for the first time, the bracket matrix has been around for 18 years. For the first time ever, a team who every expert has in the field, that team did not make the field. First time in 18 years. Your West Virginia Mountaineers. And a coach who prior to this season had 2 jobs over 23 years could leave West Virginia before a full calendar year is up. He could be on to the next destination. And West Virginia University basketball, who over 45 years, I'm 45. So the time span of me being alive, and that's a lot of years, 45. West Virginia had 3 head basketball coaches. Technically 4. We don't have to get into the 4th that was there for a couple weeks and has a 0-0 record. We don't have to do that. I always have to mention that. 45 years, 3 head basketball coaches that have a record. 3. And if Darien DeVries leaves for another job this week, West Virginia could have its 4th different head basketball coach in 21 months. That's less than 2 years. And so with all that being said, if West Virginia does lose Darien DeVries after one season, I think I have to quit Unreasonable Doubt. I can be a WVU basketball fan and not talk into this microphone. And yeah, if Darien DeVries leaves, then Ren Baker is capable of finding a quality head basketball coach. Of course, I just don't have to talk about it into a microphone. And yes, that's a precarious position because if Darien DeVries does come back, then he's back until he's not. I mean, which is always the case for anybody. But also, in 45 years, West Virginia had 3 of them. I'm still a WVU basketball fan, but I can definitely be a fan and not have this kind of devotion to it. So that's where we're at. Now, this is the 468th episode of Unreasonable Doubt, which spans over almost 8 years. The next episode will be the 469th and possibly the final episode of Unreasonable Doubt. I'm not threatening anybody. This will affect dozens of people, but that's on the table based on what's happened in the last, based on what happened in a half an hour on Selection Sunday. I mean, rest in power, Greg Gumbel. He was the glue that was holding everything together, and now it's shattered for me today. This is subject to change because I love college basketball. I love West Virginia Mountaineer basketball. I in my past I have taken. I've never had a job where you have unlimited vacation days. I have taken vacation days to consume the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, not the Dayton games, but the first Thursday and Friday. Hey, I need to take those days off. I'm going to consume as much basketball as humanly possible. I've done that. Not recently, but I've done that in my life. That's the love I have for this tournament. And I have not sniffed the bracket because of what's happened today. And I may not sniff a hobby that my first hobby that isn't a sport that I have gotten things out of and it's been productive and I've enjoyed it. I'll drop it like a hot rock. It's so lame, but I'm telling you what's going on. Woo! So that may be almost it for Unreasonable Doubt. Listen on all the platforms or just pick one: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Overcast Podcasts, Pocket Cast Podcasts, YouTube. Until next time. It might be the last time I say that. Until next time, I'm Josh Witt, WVU for the 2024-2025 season. They had 19 wins and they had 13 losses.